Incredible moment, a humbled woman discovered unexpected love with a millionaire, life-changing. In the small town of Maplewood, where the scent of fresh apple pie wafted through the streets and cherry blossoms danced with the spring breeze, Sarah was known for her unwavering kindness. Each day, she poured herself into her work as a nurse, caring for the sick and injured at the local hospital, all while balancing the increasing demands of taking care of her elderly mother. Life had thrown them a curveball in the form of financial troubles, and every bill felt like a mountain. Sarah's chest tightened at the thought. It was as if the weight of the world was resting on her shoulders. But in Maplewood, everyone looked out for each other, and Sarah knew that community meant comfort. Her heart ached not just for her circumstances but also for the growing chasm she felt between herself and her neighbors. Whispers buzzed about the reclusive millionaire, James Caldwell. Some took shots at him, casting judgment on his wealth, while secretly dreaming of what a handout could do for their lives. Sarah understood, though maybe beneath their judgment lay an unrecognized loneliness she too carried. With determination, Sarah created the first community health fair, hoping to bring everyone together. As she set up booths and organized volunteers, James stumbled upon the fair, intrigued by the energy of the town. He stood there, watching Sarah with admiration shine in his eyes. They struck up a conversation that felt magnetic, full of laughter and real connection. She was genuine, and for the first time in ages, he felt seen not through the lens of his wealth, but as a person. But the town wasn't without its suspicions. "What is she doing with him?" they whispered, suggesting that her kindness came with ulterior motives. Sarah sensed the tension. It was a bitter pill to swallow. Did they really think their friendship was just about money? This was how she wanted the world to see her. As weeks passed, an unpredicted storm rolled into Maplewood, dark clouds swirling overhead. The violent winds ripped through the community center, the heart of Maplewood, devastating everything in their path. Panic flooded the town while fear clutched at Sarah's heart. How would they rebuild? Families relied on that space. She took a deep breath, rallying her strength, and decided to organize a rebuilding effort. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. To her surprise, James stepped forward, offering not just financial backing, but his time and expertise in rebuilding, a genuine effort to mend the rift between himself and the community. Sarah felt the tension crackle in the air as she worked beside him, sharing dirt, sweat, and conversations filled with dreams. Yet behind them, whispers continued. Would they accept this help from a man they didn't yet trust? As they stood together, surrounded by the sound of hammers and laughter, that delicate bond of friendship began to deepen into something more. But doubts lingered, and Sarah's heart raced as she clung to hope. The stakes were escalating. Could love truly bridge the divide that loomed so large between them? In the flickering nerves of that moment, both Sarah and James felt the power of their connection as they confronted not just their pasts but the whispers of their futures. And with uncertainty in the air, one question hung heavy: would they rise together, or would the weight of prejudice pull them apart? As the sun rose the next morning, the shards of the town's spirit still felt scattered, much like the debris from the storm. The community center was a symbol of resilience, and Sarah's heart raced at the prospect of what lay ahead. Other townsfolk gathered, some exchanging hopeful glances, while others maintained their distance, cautious of the millionaire still lingering too close for comfort. Sarah stood at the center of what used to be the garden, now filled with the noise of construction, a mix of hammers, laughter, and occasional shouts. She found comfort in the steady rhythm of nails penetrating wood, the promise of growth rising from the ruins. James was nearby, wearing work boots and an old flannel shirt, a far cry from the tailored suits everyone expected him to wear. "Hey," he called out, flashing a warm grin. "You want to be the blueprint master today?" I could use your expertise. Sarah chuckled lightly, feeling the warmth of his kindness wrap around her. You know I'm just putting up a poster board with lists of tasks, right? Yes, but you'd be amazed at how well you organize priorities, he said, a teasing smile in his eyes. As they worked side by side, she snuck glances at him. He was so different from the town's perception. Here, he was not just a millionaire, but a man willing to get his hands dirty for people he didn't even know. Sarah felt an exhilarating flutter in her chest. It started as a timid whisper but grew louder. This was the spark she had longed for, a connection that felt more profound than mere charity. With every moment spent together, the walls of doubt both within and outside their friendship started to erode. They exchanged stories, and laughter soon filled the gaps left behind by judgment and skepticism. However, the tension in the air was palpable. Every time a town member approached, their eyes carried loaded questions. Was she genuinely befriending him, or was there more to the story? During a break, Sarah found a moment of peace beside a pile of bricks. The weight of her circumstances pressed down again. She ached for her mother and felt guilty at the joy blossoming in her heart. It was a conflict she hadn't anticipated. Could it be acceptable to find happiness in the arms of someone from another world? Hey, James interrupted her thoughts, standing close but respectful of her space. You look like you just solved the universe's biggest mystery. I wish, she said, shaking her head. Just thinking about my mom. And this whole ordeal. The pressure to make things perfect. She hesitated, glancing at him, searching for understanding in his eyes. James stepped closer, his voice softening. You know, it's okay to feel overwhelmed. But sometimes, we need to lean on others. I know you're strong, but strength doesn't mean doing everything alone. Her heart warmed at his words. In that moment, the doubt faded slightly. But just as she began to feel the pull toward him, one of their friends from the town approached with a frown. Sarah, you really think you can trust him? You're just making a fool of yourself. The shadows of skepticism hung heavier than before. The town's whispers were not so easily silenced, and with their eyes pinned on her, Sarah found herself torn between her growing feelings for James and fear of social rejection. As she exchanged looks with James, the city fell silent for a heartbeat. They both understood this was a moment that would define them. Could they break free from the weight of community expectations? Could love prove stronger than prejudice? With determination swelling in her chest, Sarah broke the silence. James, let us show them what we're made of. But even as she said it, doubt lingered. Would their efforts be enough, or was this storm only just beginning? The noise of construction continued, blending into the soft hum of distant conversations. Sarah felt the ground beneath her feet solid yet fragile, just like her emotions. Glancing around, she caught sight of noses turned up, eyes squinting with judgment. But she wasn't going to let that hold her back anymore. Let us get to work, she said, looking at James with resolve. He returned her gaze, and they shared a moment, a silent understanding that they were about to challenge everything. They set to work, organizing tasks and rallying the townsfolk. Sarah found her rhythm among the sounds of the hammer and saw, punctuated by moments of laughter. With every nail driven home, she could feel uncertainty lifting, replaced by a new sense of purpose. All right, people. She called out, her voice rising with excitement. We have a lot to do. Let us break into teams. The paint crew over there, and the landscaping volunteers over here. As they began to take shape, the atmosphere in the yard shifted. The skeptical eyes softened, and some of the frowns turned into tentative smiles. Sarah stole a glance at James as he helped guide teams, his laughter echoing in the warm, sunny air. There was something magnetic about him that pulled her closer. They worked side by side, laughter flying back and forth like the nails they hammered, and it felt right, so right that the doubts faded into the background. Each shared smile was a small victory against the whispers of doubt and fear. At lunchtime, the smell of sandwiches wafted through the air, and townsfolk began to gather under the large oak tree to eat. Sarah set down her half-eaten sandwich and looked up to see James surrounded by kids, telling them a wild story about his attempts at fishing. It was charming and so different from the corporate persona he displayed before. "Wait, you cast your line on an empty boat?" one little boy exclaimed, eyes wide with delight. "I still believe that fish are just shy," James replied, grinning. In that moment, Sarah felt a flutter of joy. He was enchanting. But there it was again, the shadow breaking through the light. A group of women from the town whispered, their heads tilted towards Sarah and James. She could see their disapproval etched on their faces. It rekindled the worry that had been tamed for most of the day. "Sarah," one of them called out, louder this time. "You really think he'll stick around after this project?" "He's just playing the hero for the moment." That spark of doubt reignited. What if they were right? What if this was just a whim for both of them? Her heart thudded heavily. James's eyes flickered to her, sensing her unease. "Ignore them, Sarah," he said, his tone firm but kind. "We are doing something good here, and that's what matters." She nodded slowly, but the words of uncertainty echoed in her head. Could she trust him? Was he really invested in them, or just playing the part? The lunch break wrapped up without clarity, and as they returned to constructing their vision, the weight of expectation slammed back down. Sarah's doubts had turned her focus inward, and she felt conflict stir in her stomach. With each swing of the hammer, she held on to a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, they could create something real together amidst the chaos. But just as she dared to believe, a familiar figure appeared at the edge of the yard. Alex, her mother's old friend, someone who had once been a pillar of the community. His face was set in deep thought as he approached. What news was about to break? Would it bring new clarity or more confusion to Sarah's already tangled heart? Alex approached with purpose, his brow furrowed and lips pressed together. The laughter and chatter around the construction site faded into a heavy silence. Sarah's heart raced as she wondered what he had to say. Was it something about the project, or was there deeper trouble brewing? "Sarah," he called, voice steady but low. "Can we talk?" Everyone turned to watch, the cheerful ambience replaced by a sense of anticipation. Sarah wiped her hands on her overalls and stepped forward. She noticed James watching intently, his smile fading into concern. "Sure, Alex. What's on your mind?" she replied, keeping her tone light even as her stomach twisted into knots. "It's about the funding for the community center," he began, glancing around at the group that had gathered. She could sense the murmurs beginning again, speculation about the conversation swirling around them. "We're in trouble. The budget got cut unexpectedly, and unless we find a way to cover the shortfall, the whole thing might fall through." His voice was soft, but the weight of his words felt like a lead weight in the air. Sarah's heart dropped. She had envisioned the community center as a beacon of hope for everyone. How could all this hard work go to waste? Her mind raced with possibilities, but doubt crept back in. If they couldn't secure the funding, would James still care enough to stay? Or would he return to his high-life obligations, leaving her and the community behind? "What if we hold a fundraiser?" A voice chimed in from the rear. It was one of the older women who had doubted Sarah earlier. "We can gather items and host an auction. People around here have more stuff than they know what to do with." Sarah latched onto that idea, her pulse quickening. "Yes. We can do that. A community event everyone will want to contribute. We can even include a barbecue to draw folks out." James stepped in. "I can help with the organization. I've got some contacts who can kick in items and sponsor part of the event if needed." His eyes shimmered with determination. A wave of relief washed over Sarah. Maybe, just maybe, they would figure this out together. But that hope quickly intermingled with anxiety about the upcoming challenges. The judging eyes of the townsfolk returned, murmurs swelling as they doubtfully acknowledged their plans. Would they, too, come to support a fundraising effort, or would they stand back to see it all crumble? As she looked around at their faces, flickers of excitement were beginning to replace skepticism. Let's make a plan, everyone. We can do this. Her voice rang out, igniting with passion. Suddenly, Alex interjected, "You need to be cautious, Sarah. I've seen things like this get messy. It's hard to navigate when personal emotions mix with community expectations." His words landed heavy, and Sarah felt the heat rise in her cheeks. The hushed group leaned in, curious, as if waiting for her to either rise or fall under the pressure. Instead of shying away from the scrutiny, Sarah locked eyes with James. They were on the same team, and no one could take that away from her. With renewed strength, she faced Alex, ready to respond. "This isn't just a project to us. It's about building something real for this community and for me." As she spoke, she saw a glimmer of something in James's eyes. Was it respect? Or was it newfound admiration for what she was willing to fight for? But before she could dwell on those thoughts, the crowd erupted into animated discussion. The energy was palpable, and yet, amidst the waves of excitement, Sarah felt a flicker of fear creeping back in. Could they really pull this off together? And just as the buzz picked up, another presence intruded. A loud crash echoed from the side, and a piece of construction equipment tipped dangerously close to where the kids were playing. Her heart raced as she dashed toward the chaos, the moment hovering between danger and clarity. What was about to change in that split second? Sarah's heart pounded in her chest as she sprinted towards the fallen equipment, her instincts screaming. The laughter that had filled the air moments before had vanished, replaced by gasps and cries of alarm. She pushed through the growing crowd, her eyes scanning for the children, praying they were out of harm's way. "Everyone, move back!" Sarah shouted, her voice cutting through the noise. The crowd obeyed, parting to reveal the scene ahead. A large crane had tipped over, its massive metal arm dangerously low to the ground. A few kids were frozen in shock, eyes wide, but thankfully unhurt. She could see the fear on their faces, and it fueled her determination. "Stay together. Keep your heads down," she ordered, rushing towards them. She knelt beside a small group, reassuring them. "It's okay. You're safe. Just stay where you are." Her hands trembled, but she forced herself to remain calm. James appeared beside her, his gaze fixated on the crane. "We need to call for help. And fast." "Right." Sarah nodded, her throat dry. "You take care of that. I'll keep these kids together." As James dashed towards the nearest worker to grab a phone, Sarah focused on the children. She felt the weight of their fear pressing in on her. "Hey, how about we play a game? Who can tell me their favorite superhero?" She tried to sound cheerful, hoping to distract them. One boy, after a long pause, mumbled, "Spider-Man. Great choice. I love how he swings from buildings. Do you think he'd save us if he was here right now?" Sarah smiled, trying to draw them into her words. "Yes." Another voice piped up, gaining confidence. The atmosphere began to shift just a little, laughter bubbling up despite the chaos. But as the crowd stood back, Sarah could feel the weight of anxiety bearing down on her. What if help didn't arrive in time? She glanced over her shoulder, seeing Alex pacing with a furrowed brow, barking orders to a couple of workers to stabilize the equipment. His usual confidence seemed strangely diminished. In that moment, a child tugged at her sleeve. "Miss Sarah, is the community center going to be okay?" The question hung heavy in the air, a reminder of what was at stake. "It will be," she assured, though doubt gnawed at her. She wanted to believe it with every fiber of her being. Then the rumbling of engines shattered the moment as emergency vehicles arrived, lights flashing and sirens cutting through the tension. Relief flooded over Sarah, but it was quickly replaced by another surge of fear. They were still unsure just how much damage had been done. James returned, breathless. They're sending a team to assess the damage, and it looks like they'll need to secure the area first. That's good, Sarah replied, wrapping her arms around herself. But what if they shut us down for a while? Hey, he said softly, shifting closer to her as the children continued to whisper nervously amongst themselves. We'll figure this out. Whatever it takes, right? Right. Her heart fluttered, an unexplainable warmth washing over her. In the middle of danger and uncertainty, a flicker of hope sparked. But then, as they watched the emergency personnel arrive, another voice cut through the clamor. It was Alex, now approaching them with urgency and something else in his eyes that Sarah couldn't quite place. We may have bigger issues at play than the center if we're not careful. We need to talk, now. Sarah's pulse quickened once more, but this time it was not just fear, curiosity and dread warred inside her. What more could happen today? As she looked at the faces around her children, James, Alex, she felt the weight of choices looming ahead. Would they rise to the challenge, or would everything they worked for crumble like the fallen crane? The tension hung thick, and just as Sarah opened her mouth to respond, a loud voice rang out from the crowd. We need to start evacuating. Everyone move. What were they about to face next? Panic rippled through the crowd, and Sarah's heart raced alongside the frantic cries. The loud command echoed in her mind, making her pulse quicken. Evacuate. It was a word meant for emergencies, and the reality of it made her stomach churn. Stay calm. Sarah shouted, trying to project authority. Everyone, please listen to your teachers and parents. She glanced down at the kids, and they looked to her for reassurance. She had to do something. James, wide-eyed, stepped closer to her. Do we really need to evacuate? He asked, worry etched on his face. I don't know, she admitted, feeling the grip of uncertainty tighten around her chest. Her thoughts flashed to everything they had worked for, the community center, the children's programs, the dreams they had built together. Just then, Alex returned, his brow damp with sweat as he scanned the scene. We need to get the kids to safety. There could be structural risks from the crane, he warned, urgency lining his voice. Sarah swallowed hard. But what about the community center? They can't shut us down, not now. I know, Alex said, his expression softening as he caught her gaze. But the safety of the kids comes first. We can rebuild. We just need to keep the focus on what's important. Right, Sarah said, trying to force optimism into her tone but struggling against a rising tide of fear. She gathered the children closer, her heart aching at the thought of what they'd face. Okay, let us line up, everyone. We'll walk together. As the crowd moved, the energy shifted from chaos to unified action. Sarah took a deep breath, focusing on each child's small hand in hers, grounding herself in that connection. Each face looked up at her, their innocence reminding her of the responsibility she held. As they approached the exit, a noise startled the crowd. A sharp metal groan echoed from the crane, causing a ripple of panic. Alex stepped forward, raising his voice above the chaos. Everyone, back. We need to stay clear. Let us keep moving away. The group shuffled as Sarah held tight to the kids, ushering them toward safety. Fear mixed with determination thrummed through her. It wasn't just about moving, it was about making sure they were okay amidst the unfolding uncertainty. Once they reached a makeshift gathering area away from the debris, Sarah exhaled, relief swimming through her veins. You did great. Everyone is safe now. She tried to smile, though her heart still raced. As she watched the workers assess the crane, a tension built anew from the insistence in Alex's earlier words lingered. He was talking urgently with one of the workers, their hushed voices drowning in the noise of sirens. You think things will be okay soon? A girl with pigtails asked, looking up at Sarah. Yes, Sarah assured her with a nod that felt a bit more like a plea. You know what? We're all superheroes today. We're strong together. As she watched the children grasp onto her words with glimmers of hope in their eyes, she felt a surge of purpose. They needed her now more than ever. Suddenly, Alex stepped back towards her, wearing a serious expression. "We need to get our plans in order. The evacuation is just the start, we have to ensure this doesn't happen again." But before Sarah could respond, the loud screech of metal echoed again, drawing everyone's attention back to the crane. What is happening? The chill of uncertainty seeped in again, settling into her bones. What else lay ahead for them? And as she turned to see the expressions on the children's faces, a mix of confusion and concern, Sarah's heart ached heavier. This day was far from over, and a new urgency settled in. What decisions awaited them in the aftermath of the chaos? A tense silence fell over the crowd as they stared anxiously at the crane. Time felt suspended until a loud thud ruptured the air. The crane swayed dangerously, and Sarah instinctively stepped in front of the children, shielding them with her body. "Everyone, back!" Alex shouted again, urgency lacing his tone. The frightened eyes of the kids scanned their surroundings, reflecting the fear that gripped Sarah's heart. "Stay close to me," she whispered, her voice steady but trembling inside. Just then, an elderly man pushed through the throng, his cane tapping the ground urgently. "What is going on? Can't we get our kids home? They need to be safe." Sarah turned to him, her own heartache bubbling close to the surface. "We're making sure everyone is okay. Please trust us." She could only hope her assurance reached not just him but everyone watching in fear. From a distance, Sarah could see the emergency services arriving, their sirens wailing and lights flashing brightly. She felt a rush of hope wash over her, but it mingled with anxiety as she realized the kids needed more than just safety. They needed comfort, understanding, someone to lead them through uncertainty. That was when James tugged at her sleeve. "Are we going to be okay, Miss Sarah?" His voice was barely above a whisper. In that moment, a fresh wave of determination coursed through her. "Yes, James. We will. And I promise that we'll find a way to make sure this doesn't happen again." Feeling bold, she turned to the crowd, raising her voice. "Listen. We are all going to stick together. We're a team. If we stay calm, we can get through this." Her heart soared when she saw some parents nodding, joining her rallying cry. Alex stood beside her, visibly impressed. "That's it, Sarah. We'll get these kids through this. Let us brainstorm ways to keep them together while we figure things out." As she began to speak with Alex, a fervent energy surged between them, mingling with the chaos surrounding them. They were allies in this tumultuous moment, pushing forward through fear toward a semblance of clarity. "Okay," Sarah said, determination hardening her resolve. "Let us organize the kids into groups. Maybe we can find activities to keep them occupied, something positive while we figure out the next steps." Alex nodded. "Great idea. And we need to make sure we keep the parents informed too." Minutes ticked by as they began organizing the children, leading them away from worry towards a sense of purpose. With each passing moment, Sarah saw the kids light up when she engaged them with games and stories, her heart swelling with pride for those small victories. But as they busied themselves, Sarah couldn't shake the sense of looming dread. Each booming sound from the crane sent shivers down her spine. What will happen if it collapses? What if something worse comes? The questions spiraled in her mind, even as she fought to keep those fears at bay for the children. Suddenly, a loud voice cut through the fog of uncertainty. "Everyone! We have an update." It was a young woman from the emergency team. Sarah's stomach dropped. She exchanged a worried glance with Alex. They had been holding on to hope, yet now they stood on the precipice of something they couldn't control. "What do you think it is?" Sarah whispered nervously, a knot tightening in her chest. "I don't know, but we will face it together, okay?" He replied, his eyes holding hers with a promise of solidarity. As the crowd collectively turned toward the emerging figure, anticipation hummed in the air, electrifying and frightening all at once. What could this update possibly mean? Would it bring them the reassurance they sought, or would it plunge them deeper into uncertainty? The moment of truth was about to arrive. The woman from the emergency team stepped up, her face flushed and earnest. "We need everyone's attention." She paused, scanning the crowd, taking a deep breath to steady herself. As silence fell, anxiety washed over Sarah again. "What's the news?" she murmured, her heart thumping loudly. The tremors of the crane echoed around them, the very ground seeming unstable beneath their feet. "There's been an accident," the woman continued, her voice strong despite the tension. "But the structure is secure for now. We're working to make sure all of you are safe. Emergency responders are doing their best to assess the situation and ensure everyone is accounted for." A small wave of relief rolled through the crowd, breaking the tight grip of panic, but it quickly mingled with uncertainty. "What do you mean by accident?" someone shouted from the back, a mother, her voice quaking. The responder looked down, obviously trying to gather her thoughts before answering. "There was an equipment failure. We have engineers looking into it, but we need to maintain a safe distance while they work. Please, bear with us. We might need to evacuate the area." Sarah's heart sank. Evacuation meant moving the kids, stepping further into the unknown. "Okay," she thought, turning to Alex. "We need to prepare them." Alex nodded, his jaw set tight. "Let's keep everyone focused. We can't let fear take over." He began suggesting a plan, and Sarah felt a swell of gratitude for his steady presence. But the kids had overheard the mention of evacuation, and the innocent faces stared up at her, wide-eyed and uncertain. "Miss Sarah, what's going to happen?" James whispered again, clinging to her side. "Listen, James," she said, kneeling down to be at his eye level. "We need to stay calm. We may have to move for a little while, but that's just to keep us safe. Just follow my lead, and I promise we'll be okay." Her own resolve wavered as she spoke, but she forced a smile, hoping it would reassure him. The crowd began murmuring amongst themselves, worry returning to the adults' faces. Fear danced in the air, palpable and thick, tightening around Sarah's throat. Just then, her phone buzzed in her pocket, pulling her from the chaos. It was a message from her sister. "Are you all right? I heard there was something on the news." The word struck her like a lightning bolt. Her sister had been so supportive, and now, she felt the weight of her responsibility pressing on her shoulders. "I need to keep this family together," she thought, remembering the little ones looking to her for guidance in this overwhelming moment. "I need everyone to listen up." Sarah called, raising her hands to grab their attention. "I know it's scary, but I want you all to know that we're going to take this one step at a time. We're not just waiting, we're making sure everyone is safe. If you hear anything, please don't hesitate to tell us." The crowd quietened, and Sarah's heart lifted as she noticed some parents taking deep breaths, visibly relaxing. In the midst of uncertainty, she felt a glimmer of hope. They weren't alone, they were in this together. The sound of sirens filled the air as more responders arrived, and she felt a swell of gratitude for them too. They were working against time, braving the unknown for their safety. But amidst the chaos, a thought nagged at her. What if this situation worsens? What if the outcome is worse than we dared to imagine? As she mulled over these thoughts, another figure approached from the crowd. A man, tall and anxious yet determined. He was looking directly at her, and for a fleeting moment, their eyes locked, igniting a spark of something indefinable. And just like that, she was thrown back into reality, heart racing. "Excuse me," he said, voice steady. "I have a plan that might help, but it involves everyone working together." Curiosity bubbled within her, coupled with the rising tension. What was his plan? Could it change everything? The moment hung in the air, and as everyone turned toward him, Sarah realized they were all waiting for something, anything to ignite hope amidst despair. What would he say next? Would it be the lifeline they all desperately needed? The man took a solid step forward, his posture exuding a mix of authority and urgency. "My name is Derek," he announced, scanning the anxious faces around him. "I know this feels overwhelming, but I believe if we work together, we can ensure everyone here stays safe until the emergency teams can do their job." Sarah felt a flicker of hope as he spoke. His calm presence ignited a spark of willingness in the crowd, some nodding along with his words, others whispering among themselves. "What do you mean by working together?" a woman asked, her voice edged with skepticism. Derek took a deep breath, looking genuinely invested in their safety. "We have children here, and they're likely frightened. If we could form small groups, we could keep everyone engaged and distracted while we wait for updates. I suggest we split into teams to keep an eye on each other and any medical needs, and we can share information. Communication is key." A murmur buzzed through the crowd, uncertainty still lingering, but a few people began shifting their weight, taking slight steps toward him. "What do you think, Sarah?" Alex turned to her, his brow raised. She weighed his gaze, urging an answer that encouraged trust among the group. "It sounds good to me," she replied, stepping forward to add her own support. "We need to make sure everyone is accounted for, and if we can keep the kids occupied, it will help them feel more at ease." The sound of a child's whimper rang through the crowd, bringing a wave of compassion crashing over Sarah. "Okay, let us do this together," she called out with newfound resolve. "We'll divide into teams, but let us make sure to keep a consistent check on one another." Derek's eyes lit up with renewed energy, matching her enthusiasm. "I'll take one group and help move further from the crane. We can find a safer area to wait and keep the kids engaged." A woman nearby stepped forward. "I can help too. I'm a teacher, and I have some ideas for games that can work in these kinds of situations." Others began to rally, too, responding to her encouragement. A firefighter in the back nodded. "I'll help with the adults, ensuring everyone knows where to go." As the crowd merged into clusters, Sarah felt a sense of community rise. They weren't just survivors in this uncertain moment, they were a team, united in the face of fear. But then, as awareness spread through the crowd, murmurs erupted about where to move next. Some felt it wasn't wise to stray from the others, while others were eager to get far from the danger zone. Walking the fine line between caution and cooperation became a delicate balancing act. "Can we just stick together?" James tugged at Sarah's shirt, his little voice trembling with urgency. She knelt to reassure him. "Absolutely, James. We won't let anyone fall behind. Remember, we're all here for each other." Just then, another tremor rumbled through the ground, making them jump. The sirens wailed louder now, and Sarah's pulse quickened. "We need to finalize our groups." In the flurry of organizing, Sarah glimpsed Derek again, his focus laser-sharp as he led a small huddle of kids. She admired how he seemed to instill confidence in them, drawing out their laughter even in this trying time. But in the corners of her mind, doubt loomed. Would they really be safe? Would their efforts amount to anything? The pressure hung thick in the air. "All right, everyone," Sarah shouted to reclaim the crowd's attention. "Let us stick with our groups and keep checking in with each other. And remember, no matter what happens, we're in this as a family." Her voice held a confidence she didn't fully feel, and she noticed Derek glance her way, a brief smile letting her know she wasn't alone in this fight. As they started to shuffle into their positions, the sound of heavy machinery began resonating from behind the crane. Murmurs of fear rose again, a tide of anxiety washing over their newfound unity. "What was that?" someone cried out. Panic began to swell, and Sarah's heart pounded against her chest. "We can't lose our focus now. With the stakes so high and they're temporary." Peace fracturing, one question flashed through Sarah's mind. What if our efforts come too late? A sudden loud bang echoed through the air, making everyone freeze. And in that moment, They all knew they had to brace for whatever storm was brewing next. The loud bang hung in the air like a thunderclap. Time slowed, each heartbeat stretching thin as the reality of the moment settled. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. The crowd shifted uneasily, eyes darting around, low murmurs building into anxious whispers. The crane truly was unstable, and a wave of apprehension washed over everyone. "Stay together," Sarah shouted, trying to sound more confident than she felt. But the sound of her own voice felt so small against the backdrop of confusion. She felt James squeeze her hand. He was still there, still looking to her for strength amidst the panic. "Miss Sarah, what is going to happen?" he asked, eyes wide with fear. She knelt beside him, her heart heavy. "We're going to be okay. We just need to stick together and listen to each other." She squeezed his tiny fingers reassuringly, even as doubt gnawed at her. As the tension thickened, Derek rallied the remaining adults around him. "Everyone, focus. We can't let panic take over. If the crane is going to come down, we need to relocate." His voice sliced through the murmur, firm and commanding, drawing everyone's focus back to the present. "Let us move calmly but quickly," Alex added, eyes resolute. "We'll create a safe zone further back." In that moment, something shifted in the crowd. The fear intermingled with determination, sparking a collective decision. Parents turned towards their children, holding their hands tightly, while Sarah felt adrenaline coursing through her veins. "All right, everyone. Just like we practiced, stay together. We'll form our groups and move now." James didn't hesitate and climbed onto her shoulder, finding safety there. His laughter amidst the chaos reminded her of the innocence that needed protection. With the adults leading, she felt an electric energy build around them. They followed Alex's lead, moving toward safety with urgency, yet an underlying purpose infused their steps. "Let us go, people," Sarah shouted as they began to move in an organized line, her heart racing alongside the children's laughter that broke through the fear. Secure in their unity, they pressed forward. As they settled into their new position, Sarah turned to keep a watchful eye on James and the group, her heart swelling with pride and relief. There was something beautiful in the way they came together, this community sharing the burden. Despite the looming fears, laughter was emerging amidst the kids, carrying a glimmer of hope wrapped in innocence. "Hey, what do you want to do now?" Sarah asked James, crouching down to meet his gaze. "Can we play a game?" he suggested, his light complementing the shadows around them. "Absolutely. You and I are superheroes right now," she said, a genuine smile breaking through the worry. "What should our superhero names be?" As he giggled at the possibilities, she joined in, and suddenly, the weight of the world felt lighter. Their laughter rippled through the crowd, and Sarah caught sight of others beginning to smile and chat, letting go of some of the anxiety. From a distance, Derek watched with appreciation, a sense of camaraderie forming among everyone as they built trust through shared experience. "Let us keep that energy alive," he called out, rallying the adults to lead small groups in games, engaging everyone in distraction during uncertain times. Watching the kids light up, Sarah felt a flicker of pride that they were not just surviving but thriving together. But the crane's ominous groaning snapped her back to reality. The heavy machinery still held an unpredictable threat. Someone called out that the emergency team was working on the situation. Every passing second brought uncertainty, yet every second held the strength of community within it. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from above, and everyone instinctively ducked. But the equipment held steady, the noise a reminder of the challenges they faced. The anxiety didn't simply vanish, it blended into resolve. Coupled with their determination, they took their close-knit community spirit and pushed forward to take control of the situation. As Sarah watched Derek lead some of the older children away from the construction noise, she felt a rush of gratitude. Despite everything, they were still standing tall together, finding light in the dark times. Then, unexpectedly, a powerful conversation grabbed her attention. The adults began sharing stories of support, tears of relief mingling with laughter, celebrating small victories amidst the storm. We can do better than this, Sarah thought, realizing that maybe this chaos would bond them in ways far beyond any fundraiser or community project. As she held James close, squeezing his tiny fingers again, she felt the heartbeat of hope bloom within her chest. Love and unity would overcome, she believed, and through this struggle, everyone would find their way back to a stronger, more connected tomorrow. In that moment, eyes shot toward her, an unspoken acknowledgement flowing among them. Perhaps they were more than just a community now, they were a family hoping to rise collectively. As the sun began to break through the clouds, illuminating the steadfast spirit of Maplewood, Sarah breathed deeply, embracing the emerging light and warmth. The journey had been far from easy, but it had shaped them. Each soul gathered had found purpose amid fear, and together they would face whatever lay ahead. "All right, let us play," she announced, smiling as ideas shot around her. The laughter of children spurred on by adults echoed through the air, creating a symphony of courage and unity. And with every sound, every cheer, Sarah knew that they would rebuild, rise stronger, and hold each other tightly through the storms that life would throw their way. They didn't just lean on one another, they formed a bond that transcended the storm, the whispers, and the uncertainty. This was their moment. This was their family. Now was the time to embrace love, kindness, and hope in the face of adversity. In that spirit, I urge you to take action. Subscribe immediately to our channel so you don't miss any exclusive stories that bring hope and transformation. Leave a like now to help us reach more hearts with this message, and comment below with your reactions and feelings about this heartfelt ending. Share instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful message of love and community. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share the journey with others. Together, let us spread the hope that unites us all.